Remake Our Life at face value seems like your typical harem wish fulfillment type series, but it's really in getting into the nitty gritty of the story that it's looking to tell that you find out that it's not really the case. But this is my review of Remake Our Life, a 12 episode series that aired in the summer 2021 anime season. So let's jump into it. Remake Our Life follows a young adult named Koya, and after the failure of a company that he was working for, we find him really kind of contemplating his life decisions. When he was younger, he got accepted into two schools, one being his typical business school, and one being into an art school, but he chose the business school instead. And as he's contemplating the fact that he wishes that he went to the art club so that he can be a part of this group of creators that he loves so much, the Platinum Generation, at some point he finds himself waking up on the day that he got the acceptance letter for this art school. And finally realizing that he's actually gone back in time, he decides that, well, since I got another chance at life, I'm going to take this opportunity to go to this art school. And thus begins his adventure as he joins this art school that, yes, he acknowledges was the art school that the Platinum Generation went to. And not only that, but a shock to nobody, it seems like somebody particularly that he looked up to is also a part of his own class. One of these members of the Platinum Generation, his favorite character designer, Akishima Shino. And as the story goes along, you kind of see how he utilizes his knowledge in the business that he actually was a part of in hopes that he has an advantage in this schooling. But as he quickly finds out, a lot of these people take their craft very seriously, and even with his knowledge, he has to find himself pushing to keep ahead. He also finds himself deeply involved with a lot of the people that he's in the same dorm with. Again, we mentioned Akishino, who is this girl that was a character artist in the future, and how she is kind of molding her craft. And even with the insecurities that she has. Nanako, a girl who seems like she has some sort of dreams of actually being a music artist. And even Tsuruyuki, who is an aspiring writer. So yeah, my thoughts on the series. Yes, I do technically agree with a lot of people. My early impressions of the series, yes, it does feel very wish fulfillment. The idea of somebody being able to go back in time to college years or whatever, making those choices in their life to get a better future. It did feel very harem in the idea that it opens up essentially with him waking up with a girl half naked in his bed, having several girls around him that all seem like they somehow have some sort of bond with him. It has that feeling of being a wish fulfillment harem show. But I never really felt that way as the story goes on. Because as you kind of realize at some point, Koya doesn't have like this innate desire of like, oh man, these girls around me, I gotta get with one of these girls. And he doesn't feel like he's a ditherer either. It just feels like he doesn't really have that as his focus. You realize very quickly his focus is Platinum Generation. His focus is a new future that he wants to succeed in. And maybe that's something that makes some people angry about the storytelling with this particular case, is this guy is surrounded obviously by these cute girls and doesn't seem like he cares. I don't think it's that he doesn't care, he just cares more about his future and this Platinum Generation that he so seeks to be a part of. But I still do think it is technically hitting heavy on the concept of the wish fulfillment. I think a lot of us out there has that desire that they wish they can go back in time and change what they do. Change their future, go about a different route, become an artist, go be a, part of that band that you want to be a part of. Different jobs, different professions. We all have that desire, and this is technically feeling in that area. And it's interesting because I love the story doesn't really shy away from the idea of making that blow up in the character's face. It pretty much points out very early on when this one teacher goes up to the stage and says, hey, everybody, you all want to be artists, right? Do you realize how many people in this classroom will actually be successful? Art is a difficult thing to get into, and his new path is going to be more difficult than his original path. He's going to see more difficulties, and he's going to run into a lot more problems than he originally did. And that's something he has to face really, really quickly. Even still, though I say that, I do think the characters were definitely great. I did think Akishino is adorable. I loved Nanako's story. I love her desire to become a singer. I hated the heartbreak in the show itself because obviously it's kind of in the realm of a love triangle that they kind of express at some point. And obviously there's going to be heartbreak in that. But even still, I did like those stories. And not only that, but I did like the writer's willingness to really have things blow up in the character's face. Definitely later on, it feels like there's a point in which the story says, you thought that you were helping, but you're not. And I think that's a crucial part of the storytelling in the series, is this idea of somebody remaking their own lives and then realizing that they ruined somebody else's. Very early on in the show, it has a point in which Koya inadvertently steals an idea from somebody else. Not really trying to, but it just happens. And it gives a sense really quickly that his decisions to be a part of something may end up affecting it in a negative way. And like I said, having the writer really try to really dive into that element is really where the story does get its own unique flavor. I do like the idea of really touching on the idea of somebody getting another shot at something, having a time jumping sort of thing where happiness doesn't always end in happiness, where somebody's joy may end up in somebody else's sorrow. And I think that is really where this show shines in the end. It may not always be pushing that at full cylinders, but it does end up being a core element of the story itself that I did really find fascinating. You can only carry somebody's weight so long before they can't stand on their own 2 feet. Another theme that it really does hit heavy on is having aspects of the creative process and what the difficulties that certain creators do face. Obviously, writer's block, the idea of somebody losing their own inspiration, the idea of not feeling adequate enough as other people, you know, the struggles of prodigies versus those that have to really work hard, respecting the art itself. They're all kind of present from different perspectives of different characters. Namely, you have characters like Kawasagawa, who's mainly focused on the idea of people respecting the art itself, taking things seriously and not disrespecting the art itself. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out the series. Like I say, at face value, it does feel very harem, wish fulfillment, but I think there's a lot of heart here, and there's a lot of elements and storytelling that it's doing that I think is very interesting and very unique. With all that said, I do have to address the fact that the ending was sort of anticlimactic. I feel like you can draw your own conclusions about where the story goes from that point, but at the same time, I can acknowledge that it feels a little bit source material bait, and I don't necessarily see the series getting a sequel in the end. So I will say keep that in mind. But even still, I did enjoy the journey, and I don't feel like I was robbed too much by the ending, but I do want to put that warning out there. But that's my thoughts on Remake Our Life. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the series, or if you're going to check it out. Subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.